Oh boy, here we go. The trade setup that I was anticipating to take for today might be playing out before market open, and I'm not going to take it. So we'll see what happens here. This is exactly what I wanted to see for New York Open. I wanted to see price trade down, create this liquidity up in here, and then trade back up for it. But I'm not going to take it. It's pre-market. This one might win, but in my experience, more often than not, when you get within about 10 minutes of market open, it consolidates. So this will be a total bummer. But if it's the trade, but I'm also really happy if I didn't break my rules. You know, my rules say I shouldn't enter a trade before 9:30 because I just statistically am going to get chewed up. So let's see what happens. We got 8 minutes until market open. And TP1 hit. So I'm bullish on the day. I think NQ's starting to look a little bit weak. We have consolidation on the 4-hour chart. Let's go take a look at that. And so what we can see is we're just building this trendline liquidity down in here. Consolidation on the 4-hour. It's kind of not looking too pretty. And then we get into the 1-hour, and the 1-hour is moving nicely, at least. The 1-hour is looking good. But we're also stuck in between all these different 1-hour PD arrays, from this inversion fair value gap to these fair value gaps down in here. And so ideally what I'd like to see is I wanted to see price trade down into equilibrium a little further. You know, if the market's super bullish, where it's currently at could have been the retracement, not even quite to 50%, and it could have ripped from there. You know, the 15-minute here, we got some consolidation at the after London and in pre-market here. So I wanted to see price move away from this consolidation down into a discount for a long. Looks like we swept the 1-hour and the 4-hour lows, but we left this London low intact. But that's okay. If price is bullish and it wants to continue the London trend, it might only retrace down into the lower zone of this London range before continuing on. So yeah, I guess I'd be really curious to see what happens at market open here, because that could have been the setup. But that's okay. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to bring it over here. So this here is my personal trading journal that I'm building here, the consistency lab. And the idea here is, as opposed to tracking my P&L, I'm going to be tracking my performance, and it gives me awards and badges and gives me statistics on my performance metrics. And this is what's most important in trading. It's not did you win or lose. It's did you follow your rules, and were you disciplined and emotionless? Or were your emotions in control? Because we're humans. We're not going to be emotionless. So yeah, yesterday was my first day using this. I'm just starting to test it out, working out some of the bugs. So I got a 95% grade, an A grade yesterday with no missed R. And I want to keep that streak up. You know, for me, I found every time I start growing accounts, is I start focusing on the profits, and I start making more and more mistakes, and then I start giving back more and more of the profits. And so I built this here to hopefully combat that. And today, just as a reminder to myself, I want another A day. It's NFP week. And what that means is we have lower probability conditions this week. And for this morning in particular, for me, it's 1 shot, 1 kill. So I get 1 trade. And I'm also signing off a little early this week. I don't trade past 11:10 on NFP weeks. And also, we're on Tuesday of NFP week. Tuesday of NFP week statistically is the lowest probability day, at least for my setup and the way I trade the market. So I got to keep that in mind. Now, yesterday was kind of garbage, so I'm actually anticipating that maybe today, because yesterday was so sucky, is going to be a better day. But let's see what happens here. We're building this trend line liquidity currently right down in here, up in here. Anyone see trend line? There's trend line. And here's the new day opening gap, so we keep kind of flipping that. Tap down into previous day equilibrium. We did build a little bit of liquidity right in here, so that's not perfect in terms of this being an A plus inversion fair value gap, just a little bit of liquidity down in there. Probably see it even more on the 1 minute. Yeah, so that just kind of floated down in there. So let's see what happens. We have 3 minutes until open, and I got a feeling it just is probably going to rip from here. I see this a little bit as, you know, our accumulation zone, our manipulation zone, and then we'll distribute to buy side. That's my guess. I will still be interested in longs if we trade down into here, but I don't know if we will. So maybe there's a possibility of a continuation play if we get some kind of manipulation and then a continuation, something like that, maybe. Probably not now that I'm looking at that. So here's my final TP, would be 2.5, somewhere in there. And 2 minutes till open, we got YM is trading down. Currently, ES is looking like it's, at least on the 2 minute, relatively correlated to NQ. You know, if this had been not so close to 9:30, you know, this confirmed, or did it confirm? Oh, it didn't confirm. Look at that. So this 2 minute gap didn't confirm. I wasn't zoomed in that closely because I wasn't actually taking it. So that means this 1 minute confirmed is a breaker, but this is, I like this a lot less because we can see that this internal range of liquidity has already been swept on the close of this candle. So the trade would have been a little bit more like this probably. So let's see what that would have been. So 1R would have been hit for that breaker, and 2.5R would be this, roughly this high. And 9:30, here we go. So I'd be break even on this had I taken that breaker. Oh, dang, and I would be out. So I'd have gotten, I would have gotten a partial out of that. So I'm just going to make a note of 9:17, 2 minute long. All right, so let's see what 9:30 does here. We're sweeping liquidity down in here at the moment. See where this candle closes. It's looking aggressive, like it wants to close down in there. And if that's the case, this might be the liquidity sweep for delivery to the downside. There's a little fruit fly down in here, which is okay. We see YM is completely decoupled. So maybe now, let's see what we got here. All right, ES and YM are taken off for buy side. NQ is still just on the 15-minute, essentially consolidating. We have an SMT down at these lows here. I'd like to see this liquidity swept. I really don't like all of this equal low, relative equal lows down in here. So these highs were swept. This high was left intact. So we still kind of have some trend line liquidity up in there. I want to see it trade down. I want to see it take this London low. We have perfect equal lows below. I'm not interested unless we get a sweep of liquidity down in here. And it needs to be light bulb. You see it says up right there, right? Light bulb only. That means it needs to be like stupid obvious, which this was stupid obvious. It just wasn't a full winner. And it was pre-market and it didn't confirm, which I've been noticing that a lot lately is in the last few weeks, tons of inversions are like this, where you get the candle closing right below it and then the next candle just rockets. I've documented that a bunch and it's bugging, it's driving me nuts. So here's the opening range gap, which so there's no opening range gap today. Yeah. So price is delivering for sell side, which I like. I like it. Just wish it would have left better liquidity up in here. Locally. But this price action here is not making me the most confident, seeing this large manipulation up into here and then a large swing down into here. It kind of reminds me of yesterday where price just would start to rally and then retrace like 90% of the way. And then it was just brutal, the retracements yesterday in the AM session. We got YM just flying to the moon over here. ES is in the middle and NQ is the weakest. All right, so we've swept all that liquidity. I still want to see London low taken now at this point. YM is just sailing. I mean, look at that 1 minute candle. Thing's huge. All right, 930 is trading down. These candles are not providing gaps on the way down. I would like to see sell side imbalances being created in here. And I'm remembering, you know, our job here is to read order flow. And if something perfect presents itself, then cool. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to read order flow. So here's a sell side imbalance. We've now swept this low here. We have not yet swept London low. We can see we're just a tick away from it. I do like that it's trading down. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Okay, London low has been swept. So here, coming down into some 1 hour fair value gaps and some 1 hour inversions. So here's the inversions, the lighter blue, and then the gray are the fair value gaps. So let's see here. We got this one, 1, 2, 3. And now we're down at equilibrium of this current range, which I like that much better for longs. Four hours not really given much of a clue. And the daily. So we're just below equilibrium of the daily range. And this 15-minute doesn't look very great. Price already reached 2.5 standard deviations of the overnight breaker. And so We can expect some kind of reaction there. Don't really have a clear breaker here that I like on the 15-minute to measure for delivery down in here. Thanks, Mario, for reminding me about standard deviations. Maybe this one at best, right here. And I'll use the wicks like Mario says. So there's one standard deviation. All right, so on the 5-minute chart here, just at the moment forming a sell side imbalance. All right, back here to the 1 minute. All right, so the London low has been swept. It is not forming any sort of inversion or fair value gap SIBI to create an inversion to go long on. So just chilling. I think this is the week. This is the weekly open, and is this the midnight open? Might be. Nope. So here we have 12 a.m. and the weekly open and the new week opening gap all below. What other targets do we have down here? So really we have gaps on the 15-minute all below. And let's go to the 1 hour. Same thing, those gaps, this 1 hour swing, and then the 4 hour was lowest just swept. So what I don't like is we're not really building super nice liquidity to target. It's just kind of a steep sell-off. There's a little bit right there. I feel like my desk is low. Let's raise it up. Maybe I'll have better posture. Let's try that. Adjust the chair. There, what do we think about that? I actually feel I like that better with for my head. Risks feel high. Right there. Try that. That's as high as my monitors go on their stands, so. All right. Just waiting, I guess. Got some kind of consolidation happening on ES, YM, and NQ. This gap is semi-irrelevant at the moment. Not really going to do much for us. So, yeah. And there's really not much to read in terms of price. We're just keep going back and forth on the lower time frames. Consolidating here on the 15-second. There we go. Keep dumping. Looks like we have some equal lows right there. This red dotted line. Perfect equal lows right there. So we've swept London low. Usually 70% of the time, New York continues the overnight trend. So in this case, the overnight trend was bullish. Making me lean towards the possibility of a New York low of the day, New York protraction. Or I guess that would be the delayed protraction profile. I don't think it's going to be high of the day. Could be wrong. But when markets are on all-time highs, you're bullish until proven otherwise. And proven otherwise is a daily change in state of delivery for me, which we haven't seen that yet. All right, so we got a potential for a sell side imbalance happening right here. We'll see what this next candle does. I don't like it because I want to see ideally this low swept. And ideally this weekly open traded into. We do have some local semi-equal highs right there. I don't know. Stoked about that gap if that inverts. And there's no gap anyway, so. Looking on the 2-minute, beautiful looking candle. You see that rejection down in there? 3-minute, nothing. 5-minute, nothing. Yeah. So that's okay. We're patient. We're not in a hurry. I wouldn't mind seeing price consolidate here for just a little bit and then trade back down into the weekly open for a long. Beyond that, and I'm not certain I'd be so stoked about a long, but this zone down in here, and it could do it without giving me my model. It could just reverse right in here. We're at the equilibrium of the 1 hour range, so nothing to do at the moment other than just continue to read price, but even then price isn't really giving me much to read. So we have those equals we're taking right there. If it closes above, this is a lower time frame bullish breaker. All right, bullish breaker confirmed. So this could be the setup. It's 9:41, and but for me, there's no inversion, so I'm not taking it. Maybe there's a 15-second, probably a 30-second inversion right there. That was probably the trade, but I don't use the 30-second chart. For entries. So here's a 1-minute change in state of delivery, 30-second breaker. So 1 hour would have been hit on that 30-second inversion. My rules say I can't use the 30-second. But it was beautiful. All right, TP2 would have been hit right there. So at this point, we got a first presented fair value gap right there in the green, and price is forming another buy side imbalance right here. All right, traded back down into that fair value gap and respected it. Look at the 1 hour candle's response down in here. Created this low, pushed all the way back up, so far creating a solid rejection block. So we do have this 3-minute inversion. Just trying to decide if I'm confident enough in price that I would think this would be well, it didn't even close above that. So this next candle is going to probably rip and close way up in here, kind of like I said earlier. Do have this 5-minute gap potentially to take. Time-wise, it's 9:45. Just a little concerned that it's going to want to just keep consolidating here on this setup. So the 5-minute, we do have contextually discount. Lots of high probability targets, a sweep, and SMT. You know, pretty much everything I'm looking for is here in this 5-minute. And it looks like it might want to close above, so maybe we'll go for it. Looks like I could have gotten a better fill if I would have waited, but that's always hard to say. You never know when it's going to bottom out. Oh, wow, look at that response right there. Beautiful. So it's coming up. Yeah, this high. This high and that high. So it looks like ES is just kind of floating up a little bit. YM is rolling over a little bit. And a 2.5R, let's see if it lines up with anything. Yeah, we got some nice buy side up in here. So this could be a, just kind of looking right in here. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see it to sweep this and then just start rolling over. All right, 5-minute IFVG trade grade is really like A+. The logic is discount for longs in bullish market. All right, so the pros we have. All right, go. This is going to hit here in a minute. I'm going to take profits slightly early. I don't want to see it form an SMT and then come back against me. I'd rather be out of the trade than sit through a retracement and drawdown. It just came too close to my TP. I like to be in and out. I guess that's bending my rules a little bit, because it's supposed to hit my TP before going my break even. But just what I'm seeing on the 5-minute and the 15-minute, if it's going to be start consolidating, I don't want to be in it. And with what I've been seeing lately in price action, we've been getting some deep retracements where it might want to come all the way back down into here. And then, of course, I get stopped out before it goes to my target. So I'm good with getting out of that. All right. Which is a little slightly unreasonable in a way, because like I expect a retracement into this fair value gap. And if the price action were different, I would have been totally fine with that. So here kind of is the 1-minute breaker. It's huge. So at this point, it does look like it's going to tap me out at break even and probably run for the targets without me. Probably. So right up in, where is it? Here would have been TP1. So TP1 would have been hit right there. So big thing I'm noticing here is maybe a little bummed that I manipulated my rules a little bit. You know, my break-even rule is tap TP1 and then break even. And sometimes I have been doing that where it's like if it just barely doesn't touch my TP, then I do go break even anyway. And my rules don't really say that I can do that. Probably the biggest con of this trade is current PA. Our time frame of the line is yes. Time is yes. Discount, yes. Major liquidity sweep, yes. IRL, ERL, yes. No unresolved, yes. No news, yes. But we're NFP one shot. A grade and displace, yes. PA grade is B plus. There was 5 and holy moly, look at that. Pros was holy moly. Local few minutes clean, but then cons is 5 and 15 are in a consolidation, sorta. Trade management. I'm gonna give myself an 80% on that. Not the worst, not the best. Went break even slightly early. Almost TP1. Emotions, felt disappointed when I manipulate my break even criteria. Had reason. PA lately deep retraces. But and sometimes go BE happens anyway. So I do it sometimes, but I don't have a clearly defined rule. So I just need to clearly define rule. Notes would have been 0.5R TP, then BE. So there's my notes on the trade. Look at that. Look at that 1 minute candle. And the fact that it's not responding extremely bullishly after that candle kind of makes me wonder if it wants to come down for more sell side. But that's my trade for the day. So, was a 950. Best action was a 30-second IFVG at 940. And that's what I normally like. You see how it just price distributed and just moved. That's what I love. I don't like it when you get into a trade and it starts messing around. But I'm also happy I didn't try to get into that trade again. Sometimes I know it feels like, in that case, I tapped out at break even, questioned if I should have done that. And I could have been like, oh, I'm going to get in on the close above this order block here. And I'm happy I didn't. I would have been stopped out. That's a nice looking 5-minute candle, though. And also remembering here, it is a low probability session. Tuesday of NFP week. So yeah, I got to think about that. I need to clearly define that question keeps coming up in my trading. And, if price almost hits my TP, which was I slightly front run it, right in there. Like that's not often it hits TP and then comes back to break even. So for me, I feel like I need to get the data to back up that claim, but I feel like it's pretty safe to say I can go break even if it doesn't hit TP1. It's likely coming from my stop loss. And even here in this one, if I had held, I would have been tapped out with half an hour TP, and then my runner would have been tapped out on this candle here. Because I do know if TP1 is taken, it like 90+% of the time won't come back for my break even unless it's going to consolidate or if I'm offside. So yeah, I guess that's my trade. I'm just kind of curious to see if it hits this final TP up in here. Probably would have TP'd right there. It'll probably go. But yeah, I think that's that's it for my trading day. So I might as well just log off and shut it down because that was one shot, one kill.